It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama. This is AP As We See It, a syndicated weekly 1 hour show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football, and always keeping an eye on the national scene and other sports. We'd like to welcome to our show a sensational guest from University of Alabama quarterback and NFL quarterback Scott Hunter. Hey, Scott, welcome to AP As We See It.
Well, AP, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Scott, we're just going to touch on some sponsors right quick. We have our sponsors, Greer's Market, 29 locations in 3 states. They have Lucy's Fabulous Recipes and the coloring contest in January for the kids. And then if you can't make it to the grocery store, you want things delivered to your office, your home, your venue, football, family, and friends, go to groceries to go at Greer's Markets. We want to mention Wind Creek, the 3 locations, Atmore, Montgomery, Wetumpka, also Robertsdale Dental Care, and also the Aloft in Dallas downtown. We stayed there for the Cotton Bowl, sensational place. But we want to get right to it with Scott Hunter because we love Scott's opinions and he watches college football faithfully. So Scott, the SEC, the strength of the SEC this year, how would you describe it?
Well, I think it shot itself in the foot, and then it shot itself in the other foot. You know, SEC is 7 or 8 really good football teams, but I think they wore each other out in a sense. They kind of wore each other out and left it just basically the Texas and Georgia. And of course, they took care of one of them, took care of the other one. So anyway, we wound up with only Texas really lasting in the college football championship playoffs, and they didn't, of course, get to the final.
Right. Scott, you know what surprised me? 2 things was the parity across the SEC to some degree and the country as well. And then the fact that the SEC teams were eliminated with double-digit losses. I thought that was interesting. Of course, the Texas game, you had to watch it. It was close at the end, of course.
Sure. Well, I really don't know what to say. I would have thought the probably top 6 or 7 SEC teams would take 4, maybe of the 12 slots in the thing. I think everybody sort of thought the same thing, but it didn't happen. And, you know, we're getting in a situation kind of like the NFL. Ray Nitschke, the old linebacker at Green Bay, who was in his last years when I was playing at Green Bay, told me one time when I was grousing about losing to the Vikings in October, he said, "Don't worry about that, Scotty. We're going to see them again in December in Minneapolis, and then it's not going to be the best team. It's going to be the healthiest team that wins." And we won. So I think we're getting to that point where with all the games that the players are having to play, it comes down to maybe the healthiest team. And I think Georgia is indicative of that with Carson Beck, you know, getting hurt and his understudy having to play. And he did okay in the SEC championship game, but it caught up with him, I think, against Notre Dame in the playoff game.
Yeah, I think it's a war of attrition, like you said, Scott, with the health. It's who can make it, who can last. It seems to be the case with this extended playoff at the FBS level. But anyway, Scott, what did you think of the play of the quarterbacks in the SEC this year?
You know, decent. Obviously, Milroe was kind of an up and downer with Alabama. Started off fantastic with the Georgia game and so forth, and then I think defensive coordinators kind of caught on to his game. You know, mostly a runner and somewhat of a passer. I think they kind of caught on to him, but. Yeah, the quarterback at Ole Miss and LSU, both good quarterbacks. Of course, you know, Quinn Ewers at Texas. So there was some good, decent quarterback play in the league.
Mm-hmm. Scott, the college football playoff, I'm not positive of why they have the buys to those particular teams, the conference champions. I guess maybe a team like Boise, let's say, if you didn't give them a bye at the top, they would always be playing on the road. So I'm not positive. But what did you think of the way they seeded the 12 teams?
Yeah, I'm not sold on giving a conference champion a bye when it happens to be one of the, like the situation we had this last season. I think it ought to be done by rankings and have,
Right.
have definite stuff in there like strength of schedule and things like that. Getting an Indiana in there, how do you figure when they didn't really play anybody or beat anybody, and the only team they played, they got beaten by?
Right. That Indiana team was particular to me, Scott. You probably remember this. I remember the 67 Indiana team playing in the Rose Bowl with Harry Gonzo, and I think, I forgot that, John Eisenberg, I think it was. But the reason I thought Indiana should be, and this was my reasoning, they were consistent in beating the teams they should. And they beat a team like Michigan, which Ohio State could not beat at home.
Yeah.
And of course, they lost to Ohio State by 23, which was 2 points less than Tennessee lost to them in the playoffs. Of course, Tennessee went on the road for that playoff. But I thought the consistency of Indiana, their play, warranted them being in the playoffs. And I always tell people, here it is, the first playoff, and the teams not in the playoff, A&M and Alabama, LSU, and all these teams across the country, USC, big names, right? And Indiana's in the playoffs. So the first time they ever won 11 games, never won 10, I guess. So that was a sensational season for them with that transfer quarterback. But that was my reasoning. Yeah.
With the college football playoffs, I know a lot of people in the Deep South are grousing about it, but they've hit a home run with Notre Dame.
Yes.
They've hit with Notre Dame and Ohio State. They've hit a ratings, a national ratings bonanza with those
my
two
goodness.
teams. It will have, if it were Alabama playing, pick one, you'd probably have 10 to 15 million viewers. But Notre Dame and Ohio State, I think it'll have 20, 25 million viewers.
I think so. Ohio State took up the entire Midwest and beyond, and then Notre Dame takes everybody across the globe.
They're LA to New York, Miami to Green Bay.
Right. Say, Scott, you mentioned Notre Dame. Did you happen to see Riley Leonard play in high school? I saw him play one time, and I was very impressed. And I thought, he'd be a nice quarterback for Alabama or Auburn, but I don't think they showed much interest. But it all worked out for him.
Yeah, nobody really. Alabama, Auburn didn't really recruit him. Duke, of course, he was where he went, and he played well at Duke, and that's the reason, obviously, that he got an opportunity to transfer to Notre Dame. And I think he's one of those guys that didn't maybe blow you away when you saw him in high school, but he was serviceable, and I think his dad was a great athlete, and he transferred down. And smart guy, because obviously going to Duke and playing there and going to school there. So I think, but he's one of those guys that's grown every year and gotten better every year that he's been playing. And, we've talked about this. You get a lot of kids that not just quarterbacks, but, they get there with all kind of 4-star, 5-star ratings, and they're as good as they're ever going to get when they walk on campus. They don't improve like Riley Leonard has improved.
No. So I tell people, Scott, and you probably have seen this, they either embrace it totally 100%, the challenge, or they retreat. Yeah. And they can't manage it. Yeah, they can't manage it, But Scott, we're going to start this discussion, but we're going to continue. We got a couple minutes here. Can one person direct college football? Can you have a czar, Scott?
Well, I think it can, and I think it will. I think the college football is going to the 60 or so teams that are serious players and revenue generators. Greg Byrne, the athletic director at Alabama, told me that when the contracts come out in about 2 or 3 years to about $2.7 billion for college football from the TV networks and cable streamers and you name it, then they'll form up and have a rules, regulations all drawn up by attorneys that are approved and so forth, sort of like the NFL. And a player will have to abide by those with the transfer portal and NIL monies and so forth. And then I think they'll have to have a commissioner, if you will. And I think that'd be an excellent, if he wanted to do it, a Nick Saban job. But as good as he is doing on ESPN, I think he'll stay with ESPN too, though.
I hear you. Scott, we're about a minute in this segment. I don't know if you could answer this in a minute. We'll continue it, though. But do the commissioners, will they relinquish that power, Scott?
Oh, they won't have any. they won't have any choice. I mean, the football playing powers, the revenue generators are going to run the show. And that's just all there is to it. And the athletic directors and the presidents of those schools, obviously, they're going to get what they want. And, money talks.
Yes, yeah. I think it'll be interesting that if they pick a person like Nick Saban, he'll be given the responsibility, but as I always learn, Scott, you must coordinate the R, responsibility, with the A, authority. And if you have those two things, you can have a chance to get things done. But anyway, Scott, we're going to come back after these messages with AP as we see it in our special guest, Scott Hunter, former University of Alabama and NFL quarterback. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP, as we see it, our very special guest, Scott Hunter, former University of Alabama and NFL quarterback. Scott, we were discussing the czar for college football and someone like Nick Saban. He's been floated as a candidate. Scott, do you think he would want to take that position? As you said, he's having fun on TV.
Well, every Saturday I've watched him on ESPN. He's gotten better and better, and I hear more people talking. And I'm not sure he would give up his ESPN position now to be a commissioner of college football. Sounds like jumping into a can of worms.
Yeah, too many phone calls, and they're not good. They're not good. They're not good. But Scott, what's the future of Alabama football under Kalen DeBoer? Maybe you want to have a few comments about this past season and moving forward.
Well, a first-year coach is always a tough situation. We all know Nick went 7-6 his first year. Coach Bryant went 6-4 his first year. So I give him till this year, and let's just see how things begin to materialize. He wants an offense that was like the one he had at Washington, and we all saw them year before last beat Oregon twice in high-scoring games, and we all saw the Texas playoff game when Michael Penix was just throwing shots downfield, and that's the kind of offense and that's the kind of quarterback that he wants. So let's give him a season. Let's give him past last season to this season to see how he establishes that. And he's going to have the receivers, and obviously led by Ryan Williams. He's going to have the receivers. He just needs a quarterback that can operate in a sophisticated downfield, reading the progression, going through your progressions and so forth type quarterback.
Yeah, that's what I tell people, Scott. When he gets his personnel, give him a chance to implement his offense with the style of quarterback play that fits that system. And I think it was very difficult. You doing the best you can with Jalen Milroe. And I think, like you said in the past segment, the defense has figured out Jalen Milroe, and except for LSU, who barely played any defense, he was able to run around that game. But the other teams were able to corral him because they figured it out. Yeah.
Everyone looked back at the Michigan Rose Bowl game last year and saw what the Michigan defensive coordinator was able to do. And, of course, they attempted to copy that game plan. And sometimes, like Oklahoma, it worked real well.
Yes. Yeah, sure did. Scott, the transfer rule is something new in the last couple of years. It's really a form of free agency. You've been in professional football. I don't even think that they had it when you were in professional football at that level. But now it's year to year. You're re-recruiting your roster. You're trying to manage things in the month of December. And they've come out recently, I think in last year, so they want to have that transfer portal one window, January 2nd to the 12th. The coaches voted on. Now they has to pass the committee. But what do you think of this transfer portal? I don't think it's going anywhere because of the court system won't let them retreat.
No, it's in place. It's not going to be overturned. And even when they form up a new, say, College Football Association, we'll have a transfer portal. And I don't mind that. In this sense, some players that want to play, they see that there's a quarterback ahead of them, like Quinn Ewers or something of that nature, can transfer somewhere and play immediately, and there are places for them to play. So I think it'll kind of make college football a better game because more talent will be in more places.
Yes.
And when that's the case, you're going to find out who can coach and who was just winning on having three
Yeah.
deep.
Scott, that's what I was telling a lot of people. You have to earn your money now. You really have to coach. You just can't roll out the football. I always tell people about that, Wimp Sanderson, the former Alabama basketball coach. He always say, I don't want to coach every play, but I think you have to now.
Well, and what Coach DeBoer brought in a general manager for personnel.
Yes.
And I'd never heard of such a position, but Courtney, I think Courtney
Morgan.
is,
Right.
and
Correct. Yeah.
but in this day and time, that's really a necessary thing.
He's a key person. He's a key person in your organization. It sure is. Yeah. And Scott, I tell people, just delving into the NIL situation, it's the same old story. Who should receive the money? And when you're at a place like Texas, I always tell them they were selecting players for 30 years and they didn't select the right ones or have the good leadership because they should have all the championships, not Alabama or somebody like that, right? Because they claim to have, 1,000 high schools and all the resources, but where are the championships? And it's the same old story. Who should receive the money now?
Well, it'll be the same old thing, AP. You hit on the head. The same schools that win are going to continue to win, like
Yes.
Alabama and the Michigans and such as that. And you'll see a few pop, come through with as NIL gets their way, but I don't think much is going to change about college football. Again, there's 63 or so that play serious football, and about 20 to 25 of those really are more serious, and I don't think that's going to change.
Right. Oh, sure. Scott, anything about college football that you'd like to change or something that happened in these last 5 years that's been a whirlwind, something that you like about college football?
I know a lot of fans are upset with the NIL and
Yes.
the portals and all that, but that's the world we're in now. And,
Yes.
I can't, when I was in Alabama, we got a laundry check every 2 weeks, I think, for $15. I could carry Deb out for a Coke, So now the players are sharing a little bit in the revenue, and when coaches are making $8, $9, $10 million,
Yes.
I think the players deserve some.
Yeah, coordinator making too. So Scott, you didn't need a banker at that point. You didn't have need of any bankers at that point.
He had my $50 account.
For sure. Scott, this Alabama football team, they had their moments, but it seemed the consistency wasn't there. And I don't know if you probably observed this, but I just saw some things on the field that weren't typical of Alabama, and I would say put it in the category of behavior.
Well, again, you got first year coach Idas, and the players getting to know the new coach having his style, and I understand he's a little more relaxed than Nick was, and players will have to adapt to his style because he's not going to adapt to theirs.
Yeah.
And so I think in time it smooths itself out. But AP, in this day and time, you've got to have a top tier quarterback.
Yes.
You got to throw the ball downfield to top tier receivers. That requires guys that can pass block up front, and you got to play enough defense to get your offense back the ball. So those are the things that Coach DeBoer is going to have to master, of course, and he knows that, and to be successful in 2025.
Yes, it's defense is all relative in this day and age, Scott, is it not? It's not the shutdown type. It's all some critical stops and possessions and things.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama fans will have a hard time accepting the fact that Alabama can't stop everybody and hold them to 10 points. But basically now you're looking at making 6 to 7 to 8 plays in a game, particularly in the late third and fourth quarters, that change the game around. And that's what a defensive coordinator is looking to do now. Get that sack in the fourth quarter, that interception, that stop, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Scott, the last 2 minutes, I wonder if you maybe preview the Ohio State Notre Dame game from your perspective, last couple minutes.
I think it'll be a good game, but I think Ohio State has got a little more horsepower than Notre
Right.
Dame, and I think probably they win by 10-14. But I look for Notre Dame to hang in there. Marcus Freeman done a great job with that team,
Yes.
so I look for them to hang in there. But Ohio State, they're pretty strong.
Yeah, that roster with those two running backs and three wide receivers. Jeremiah Smith, Scott, he's exceptional. He reminds me of Julio Jones because he's big, athletic, and he stabs the ball in the air. I mean, he really gives his quarterback a chance to have completions. I really like watching Jeremiah. And then the quarterback, Will Howard, I had a chance to visit with him in Louisiana, Thibodeau at the Manning Passing Academy, and he fully embraced. He said, we're trying to win a national championship, and he said it with a smile and with an air of confidence and at ease with the premise and everything. So I like you. I feel Ohio State, unless there's a bunch of turnovers, which we can't project or determine, that Ohio State is a stronger team. And I think Ryan Day is a good coach, Scott. I think he gets tight.
No doubt.
He gets tight in that Michigan game. And I think that philosophy, Scott, and you know about rivalries, Alabama, Auburn, but it seems like Michigan lives in their head. They got all those signs and the clock around their facility. And I think it's to their detriment. I understand it's an important rival as you do with Alabama, Auburn, and Alabama, Tennessee, those types of games. But I think it's to their detriment, really. I would try to remove that somehow.
Who won the Ohio State-Michigan game?
Michigan won, right? Yeah.
Who's in the national championship game?
Yeah, Ohio State. Yeah, that's all that matters, really, I think.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, Scott, we want to thank you so much. Scott Hunter, the former University of Alabama and NFL quarterback. We always love to hear Scott's opinions and perspective. And we're going to be right back after these messages with our next guest, Howard Cross, the former tight end at Alabama and NFL tight end. And he's got a son, Howard Cross III at Notre Dame. So we're going to be watching the game for that in and of itself, right, Scott, to see one of the Alabama the legends.
All right,
okay.
AP, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. We'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it. I'm AP Stedham with Dr. Jason Northcutt of Robertsdale Dental Care.
AP, not only do we offer basic full-service dental treatment, but I also have developed a niche within the practice where I provide comprehensive dental implant services, such as single implants, bone grafting, and full mouth reconstruction. I've been highly trained in those disciplines to offer comfortable and long-lasting solutions to major dental problems.
Come by and see Dr. Jason Northcutt at Robertsdale Dental Care. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP as we see it, and our very special guest, Howard Cross. Hi, C, former University of Alabama and NFL tight end, Super Bowl winner with the New York Giants when they beat Buffalo. I know that was a spectacular moment for you, but I always kid Howard about this. He said it was almost as good as beating Auburn. Is that true, Howard? Welcome to AP as we see it.
Hey, you're definitely right. We only got to beat Auburn once in my time there, so that was special. The Super Bowl was great, but beating Auburn was really big.
Hey, Howard, it's going to be it's been a big couple weeks for you. Your son, Howard Cross, the third defensive lineman extraordinaire for Notre Dame, made some All-American teams last year, second team for quite a few. The Walter Camp Football Foundation, the Football Writers Association, the Sporting News, the AP, and he made this year also another second team All-American. So, Howard, you've got to pay homage to him. He's an All-American.
Yeah, I tell him, I said, you've done a lot of stuff than I have. You got 2 or 3 degrees and a master's, and you're an All-American. I said, that's pretty good.
Not too bad, Howard. Say, Howard, how did Howard III arrive at Notre Dame? How did that happen?
Well, when he was going, we were thinking about him going to school, and he was trying to figure out he wanted to play football. I'm like, okay, so as a guy that was about 6 foot tall at that time, he was about 240 pounds. I'm like, yes, let's look at some schools that are probably, more along the lines of that's going to get you, great careers, and where do you want to work? And I asked him a lot of questions about, what he
Yeah.
saw after 4 years down the road. And he was like, "Well, I'd like to be able to work anywhere." I said, "Okay, then so you need to look at some of the schools that are considered academic schools more than anything else." He goes, "Yeah, but I want to play football." I'm like, I said, "You can play football anywhere. You can play football at Harvard." I'm like, he was like,
Right.
yeah, I guess you're right. So then we started going around. We went out to Stanford, Duke, Northwestern, Vanderbilt, and Boston College. He visited, and I think the last visit we took was Notre Dame, and he was like, he felt like out of all the schools, the Notre Dame group was probably the biggest group, and you know, it's two or three of the schools are Catholic schools, but this is
Yes.
kind of like as one school was knocking on Notre Dame, they're like, well, this is like Catholic Disneyland. So I'm like, I started
Right.
laughing. I'm like, okay, if that's the way you want to put it. So that was kind of the thing that kind of brought them over. And they had a great slogan for the kids coming in. They said that the 4 years that you spend in Notre Dame will be for the next 40 years of your life, meaning the education would carry you further than almost anywhere else. And I'm like, huh, that's an interesting slogan. I didn't say anything
Yes.
to him. I let him make his decision. We were driving back, and he was like, "I think I want to go to Notre Dame." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay." Well, I said it's a really tough school. He goes like, "I can handle it." I'm like, "All right, have at it."
Hey, it was perfect for him. It's worked out
Yeah,
very well for him, you know.
it
So
did. It
that's
did.
great. Howard, he this is like, is this his 6th year because of that COVID situation and everything, right? And
Yeah, he
different things that
stayed.
is
Yeah, he stayed one more year. He could have left last year and went to the league, and then they asked
right.
him if with the NIL money and all this other stuff, they actually pay kids now to stay a 6 year if they can get them to stay. And he was like very close to finishing his master's, so he's like, I could get my master's and have another year in school, and what do you
Right.
think, Dad? I said, I think that you are thinking,
Yeah.
we, you know, I thought that was a pretty good idea. So, and they're going to pay you, so you want to talk about it more? He goes like, no, I really would like to get that master's. I'm like, okay.
Yes.
So it kind of worked out, doubly for him.
He makes great decisions. Howard, when I was looking over that schedule, and of course I saw you up there in New York for the Army versus Notre Dame game. I
Hmm.
thought that was really cool. One weekend you're playing at Yankee Stadium against Army, and the
Hmm.
following week you're in the LA Memorial Coliseum against USC. I thought that's really spectacular for a college football student.
But yeah, they've done some pretty cool things. I mean, last year they were in Ireland, so they've had some really cool trips, and it's cool for them to get out and to experience and do a lot of fun things. I think the
Right.
school gave them a bunch of great opportunities.
Oh yeah. Howard, what's the ambiance at a Notre Dame football game for those who've never attended? You were at Alabama, you saw the SEC. What's the ambiance at Notre Dame on a Saturday?
I think you have to think about it like so I'm in the Northeast now. I've been up here for like 30 plus years, and like there are a lot of
Right.
people, and even in the South, there are a lot of people that are Catholic. So
Yes.
in our mind, we think of SEC football or Big Ten or whatever. We think of like football, like big time, big school football. Well,
Yes.
the Fighting Irish are like one of the oldest football schools, right there behind probably Princeton and some schools like that. They're a pretty old institution when it comes down to American football. And
Yes.
the thing is that there are so many people around the country who believe in the Catholic Church and their faith, and they see this as their beacon of glory kind of moment. So there are people that are crowding in trying to get into that little small school to see those
Right.
games. And it's when I say a small school, I mean it's like 8,000 students in the school. I think that's
Yeah.
undergrad and grad, or maybe 10,000 undergrad and grad, and they got a stadium that holds like I guess 65,000. So the people aren't just there to see the school. They're at the Basilica. They're putting lighting a candle. They're doing all the stuff that it's like going to Green Bay. If you're a pro football fan, you want to go to one of the great stadiums, one of the historic moments. They go for the history of the game, and they're connected to it because they're Catholic or they're Irish or whatever. They feel connected to it.
Mhm. Hey, Howard, what is your association with Marcus Freeman, the head coach, or some of your conversations, or just have you had to describe him to somebody and what he's done for the program?
I think he's caught it at the right time. He's a younger guy, so like when he
Yes.
took over, he caught the NIL movement. He caught the the
Right.
transfer portal movement. He catches all the parts of it that's a little different. When Howard's going to school, he's out trying to figure out where he wants to go to school. To get into Notre Dame was like this really incredibly hard thing academically. So those schools have such high academic standards that it's hard to get kids in. Now that you got the transfer portal, you can
Right.
take a fifth-year senior or a fourth-year guy, and you can transfer him over. So now the incredible hard academic rule to get the kid into school as a freshman pretty much is a little bit different. They can get kids
Yeah.
into school a lot easier then. So he caught it at the right time. So now he's able to go out and bring in a linebacker if he needs it, or like he does in the last 2 years, bring in a quarterback that he can do that's a veteran that can play. So he caught it all at the right time. And his message is more of a young person's message to the kids. He still feels like he's so connected to the game from a player probably standpoint. I
Right.
don't think he's 40 yet. So like he still has that energy and that fight, and like he's working out. He's in great shape. He's out there with the guys getting them to grind. And his message is always, to press ahead, kind of like you would see a guy that's standing in the middle of the circle, trying to get guys fired up. That's his kind of personality when it comes down to his team and his players. And he messages and echoes, what a lot of coaches say about how you are fighting, how you're trying to, it's not what you did yesterday, but what we're going to do tomorrow. It's the message that kids need to hear. And when you see a young guy talking about that to you, it's the same message that your dad probably told you, but you're not listening to it. Now that the young guy that's a coach is telling you, it seems to be the biggest thing in the world. Like I would tell Howard and Bella all the time, like when we play golf, I'm like, well, they're like, oh, I hit the ball over here. I'm like, well, you can't do anything about that now. You got to think about what you're going to do next. They're like,
Right.
why do you always say that? I'm like, because we can't what happens. What we can do with what happens next.
Right. Hey, Howard, in about a minute and a half, what would be a self-scouting report of, not self, but a scouting report of Howard Cross III? What would you say? Would have people ask you about your son?
Well, if he was totally healthy, because he's playing on that banged up ankle, he would be explosive off the ball, great with his hands, really, really great with his hands, very physical at the point of attack. Because he's so quick, that it's very hard to block him in a one-on-one situation. So that makes him, makes a bigger guy, gives him problems. A smaller guy almost has no chance. So the quickness, his size, his leverage, his hands, it makes him a really good player. Like that's the kind of player that people worry about a lot. And I even talked to Dabo, and Dabo was making jokes. He's like, I'm so glad that I don't have to play Notre Dame anymore. Your son was killing us every year. I should have recruited him right off the bat. And I'm like, well, coach, I hate to say it, but I would love for him to play for you, but I don't think you were in our school group. He started laughing.
For sure. Yeah, he has great technique and leverage, and his hands are a force as well. But Howard, we're going to come back here in a little bit, and we're going to continue the discussion about Notre Dame and, Riley Leonard, the quarterback from Alabama, of all places, right, Howard? A quarterback from Alabama leading Notre Dame. That's unbelievable. We never thought we would see that in our lifetime, probably, but it happened. But it's been really great. So we're going to be right back after these messages with our very special guest, Howard Cross, former tight end from the University of Alabama and the NFL, with AP as we see it. We'll be right back after these messages. I'm AP Stedham and stay at the Aloft Dallas downtown, a Marriott Boutique Hotel within walking distance of favorite attractions, JFK Museum, American Airlines Center, Reunion Tower, and Museum District. Work out their 24-hour fitness center and follow up with a refreshing dip in their pool. Explore the city and return to the hotel's popular WXYZ bar to mingle over cocktails and savory bites. Call 214-761-0000 or visit www.aloftdallasdowntown.com. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP, as we see it, our very special guest, Howard Cross, former University of Alabama and NFL tight end. Howard, I always told people you could block a house. I mean, you were a tremendous blocker. Jacobs Trophy winner back in your day, two-time All SEC tight end, and I think some of the biggest hands I've ever seen for a tight end. And you had a sensational career, 13 years with the New York Giants. And I think, Howard, you still played the most games, I think, of all time for the Giants. Maybe that record still stands. It did at one time.
It did at one time. I think Michael Strahan caught me, and then I think Eli played longer than both of us. He played like 16 years, and I think he only missed one start. So that was pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Howard, you're a part of the New York Giants radio network on the sideline. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
How have you enjoyed that career, Howard?
It's been interesting, to go in to be able to watch and talk about the guys and kind of stay around the program, knowing the owners, of course, and the different coaches that have come through. This particular coaching group has had us more involved with the players themselves, so talking to them, getting to know them more. And I think that's kind of interesting that a coach is trying to push the players into, because he wants the fans to know them as much as possible as well. So I think that's pretty cool. But I've really enjoyed it. I've got to be on the sideline for 2 or 3 Super Bowls and be around them a lot. So that's been a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Our paths crossed in New Orleans at least once. So I always try to touch base with you when I'm covering the New York Giants game, which is every once in a while. But Howard, the Giants were always the Wall Street team. That was always Wall Street's team, the New York Giants. But Howard, you were in the commercial real estate business as well.
Absolutely. I worked for Cushman & Wakefield, one of the 3 largest commercial real estate firms in the world. I work with our global chairman, Bruce Moser, and we chase some national, international clients and some local people as well. So it's a lot of fun being part of the market and being part of the media. People are like, hey, I heard you at the game, or I saw you on TV. It kind of all relates, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. And Howard, your daughter, Bella, she's a graduate of the University of Alabama.
Mm-hmm. She's a graduate of the University of Alabama. Bella works for Millennium, which is a hedge fund, and she works down in Miami, which is funny because she was like, I don't know if I can want to work for a hedge fund, Dad. I'm like, well, I said, if they're offering you a job, you should think about it. She interned with them for a couple of years to, finding something to do over the summer. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, we'd like for you to come work for us full time. And she was like, I'm not really sure, Dad. And they're like, well, we're opening an office in Miami. And she said yes before they said they got the E out and everything.
Yeah, Miami's not too bad of a place. Sure. Nice weather and everything, for sure. Howard, we were speaking about Riley Leonard from Fairhope, Alabama, the transfer from Duke. What do you like to tell people about Riley? You've watched him many times now.
Well, he's a real physical player. He's kind of along the lines of a guy that's a big-time runner, puts his body on the line a lot, but he still has a little touch with the ball, and he's throwing it around. Notre Dame has good receivers. They don't have the greatest receivers, but they do have. They're usually big on their tight ends with Mitch Evans and those kids. And he gets the ball to them when it's time, and it causes teams problems. Most teams that are playing and are watching, even Coach Saban would say they can't stand running quarterbacks. It's hard to account for an extra guy running the ball, and he does a good job with it. And for a kid that doesn't look fast or doesn't look, whatever, when he's in the open field, like he gives it's a booger to catch him. It's a booger to get him down. He runs hard. He runs physical. He'll get that first down. He scores a lot of touchdowns if he's down in the red zone. He's a problem.
Yeah, double-digit touchdowns, I think, rushing. I was checking some of his stats. But, yeah, he's long-legged and a good athlete. I saw him play basketball, Howard. He did the alley-oop dunks and shot the three-pointers. He could have played Division I basketball. I believe his dad played at the Citadel, I think, and
he
was quite an athlete himself.
Yeah, he's a pretty good athlete.
But Howard, what are some of the things that people should know about this Notre Dame football team? Some other things as they approach the national championship game?
Well, they're going to be, it's going to be a gritty team. What I mean by that, they've replaced I think now three, counting the linemen that went out in this last game, they've replaced three of their
Right.
offensive linemen. They've got a lot of freshmen that are playing, which is going to be great for these kids over the next 3 or 4 years if they decide to stay in school. Starting and getting a chance to play against schools like USC and Georgia and Indiana because they had a great season. This is some reps that they can't ever replace. So it's going to be really fun to watch them in this game. I think from an offensive standpoint, they like to run the ball. You got Love. This kid's going to be, I think he's like a sophomore, and next year he'll probably leave and go into the league. With his health, he'll be probably one of the first backs taken in the draft, which will be pretty impressive. The other two backs are pretty good as well.
Yes.
So that's going to be the thing they're going to be focused on. They're going to be trying to run the ball, and they're not having like giant success. They just have big runs all of a sudden. They'll have 3 yards of
Right.
carry, and then they'll break off one for like 80 or 90 yards, which is just you have to be on your P's and Q's because if you make mistakes, they make you play. Their secondary, that's pretty incredible. They got a lot of kids back there, Watts and those guys that they are ball hawks. They get interceptions. They find a way to get their hands on the ball, and when they get their hands on the ball, they usually catch it. So that's something that I'm sure that Ohio State's looking at and saying, "Hey, look, it's not a big problem. We just got to make sure that we hit our receivers and don't give them a chance to catch the ball, because if you do, they will." The thing that's been great is that the defense coordinator has found ways to get pressure on the quarterback. Outside of the defensive lineman himself, some of the defensive linemen,
Yes.
I think Brian Young's son is there. There's a Hall of Fame defensive end, D tackle that played at San Francisco is out there. He's a kid that comes off the edge pretty fast. Roman Oben's son plays pretty well in the secondary. You got Jack Kaiser in the middle who keeps those guys organized, and you got Howard. Howard playing in the middle. He's the subject of a lot of attention when he's playing up. Never seen that many double teams in a game before, and sometimes triple teams. So if he starts to get loose and starts to really get penetration, get up the field, it causes havoc for the entire team's offense. So I'm pretty sure that Ryan Day and those guys are staring at that film, going like, "Is that guy like how big is he?" Like, and kind of question. And why is he always in the backfield? So it's something that they'll be working on. So I'm looking forward to it. This is his last game of his college career. We've had a great journey. Bella, Howard, and I, have had a great journey, and I'm excited for him.
Mhm. I think the thing that impressed me about Notre Dame the last few years, I always thought they were pretty good defensively, but I think, as you said, the defensive backfield is first class now, and they're able to get some players. I think.
Yeah, they're
That
gonna
was
have some
important.
kids go. They're gonna have some kids that they're gonna get drafted. I mean, they are very impressive the way they play. Al Golden's defenses seem to, they recruit kids that maybe were former receivers or something. I don't know, but they make a lot of plays in that secondary.
Oh yeah, Howard. The last 2 minutes, how could Notre Dame win this ball game?
Well, they got to be connected in all three phases. I think that it's going to be a tough game and a physical game. But as you saw the way Texas kind of played against Ohio State, they played a lot of rolling guys over their big time receiver, trying to make everybody else beat them. I don't think Notre Dame's going to do that. I think Notre Dame feels that they have a secondary that can hang man to man almost anywhere. So it's going to be pretty much how they're going to get pressure on the quarterback. If they start getting pressure on the quarterback, it's going to be a problem. They like to run the inside zone up the middle. They can't really do that if Howard's playing in the game, because he'll be able to shut that down and force the ball to the outside. Notre Dame's got to be able to hold up on the edges. So the way for them to win, I guess what you would call the path to victory for them, is to continue to lean on your defense, continue to play solid defense, play error free on your side of the ball, and wait for Ohio State they'll give it up every once in a while. Their quarterback will throw an interception, or you can get some hits on him and get the ball out of his hands. And I don't think anybody expects you to play as hard as they've been playing. So I think a lot of teams are shocked when they see them, because I think even now, I think they're saying that Ohio State's an 8-point favorite. So they're probably thinking, we got these guys, but it's not. It never works out the way. I think Georgia thought, we got these guys, and they saw something they didn't expect to see as well.
No, solid defense and good on offense, error-free quarterback that can cause you problems running the football. I think it's going to be a terrific game. And playing, Howard, is there last 30 seconds? So there an advantage playing indoors for one team or the other at all?
No, I think it's better. I think it's even for both of them. I think they're both going to throw the ball when they had the chance to throw the ball. I think it's better for the defenses when you're playing indoors because you don't have the element of slipping in the grass or sun glare and all that other craziness. So you'll be able to set your feet, make your moves, and if you're paying attention to your guys, it's easier to break on the ball.
Little SEC flavor. The kicker, Jeter, transferred from South Carolina, had the game-winning field goal against Penn State. I know he's a good kicker, and so those people always matters. Howard, about kickers and winning ball games or failing to make the kick at the end. But, hey, we want to thank Howard Cross, IC, University of Alabama, Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, former NFL tight end for the New York Giants, Super Bowl winner. We want to thank you, and we'll be back next week with another show of AP As We See It. Thank you so much, Howard. Really appreciate it.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on, man. Have a great one.
Yeah, thank you, Howard. We'll see you down in Atlanta.